Ever wondered what makes a bad boy tick? Today, we're delving into the intricate psychology of the so-called bad boy. This archetype, often seen in movies and literature, is more complex than you might think. Bad boys are a fascinating study in contrasts, exhibiting a mix of charisma and rebelliousness, emotional unavailability, and risk-taking. But what drives these traits? From a psychological perspective, we might look at factors such as attachment issues, self-esteem, impulsivity, and a need for validation. Their behavior too is a pattern of push and pull, often characterized by manipulation and conflict. And when it comes to coping mechanisms, escapism and avoidance of vulnerability often come into play. These are just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more to explore to understand the intricate dynamics that shape the psychology of a bad boy. So strap in as we dive deep into the complex world of the bad boy psychology. Let's start with the personality traits often associated with bad boys. The allure of the bad boy persona often stems from a mix of traits that create a compelling, albeit complex character. First off, we have rebelliousness. The bad boy is often seen as a rebel, a non-conformist who challenges authority and societal norms. This rebellious streak could be born out of a desire for independence, a thirst for autonomy, or a need to assert individuality. Next up, we have risk-taking. It's no secret that bad boys have a penchant for danger and excitement. They're known for their adventurous spirit, always seeking the next adrenaline rush. This risk-taking behavior can be tied back to a need for stimulation, novelty, or even a way to combat boredom. Then there's charisma. Many bad boys are seen as charismatic individuals. They have a certain charm and allure that draws people in. This charisma, however, can be a double-edged sword. While it can make them magnetic and attractive, it can also mask underlying insecurities or vulnerabilities. Finally, we have emotional unavailability. Bad boys are often seen as emotionally distant, guarded, and elusive. They may struggle with expressing their feelings or forming deep emotional bonds. This emotional unavailability can be a defense mechanism, a way to maintain control and keep their vulnerability under wraps. Each of these traits, rebelliousness, risk-taking, charisma, and emotional unavailability, contributes to the unique persona of a bad boy. They shape how the bad boy interacts with the world and how the world perceives them. But these traits are just the tip of the iceberg. They're manifestations of deeper psychological factors that shape the bad boy's behavior and attitudes. These traits shape the bad boy's persona, but what drives them? Let's delve into the psychological factors. Psychological factors play a significant role in shaping a bad boy's behavior and attitudes. Let's delve deeper into these factors. To begin with, bad boys often grapple with attachment issues. These issues typically stem from their childhood experiences, where they may have encountered insecure attachment styles. As a result, they may find it challenging to form and maintain healthy emotional relationships. They might fear intimacy or tend to avoid emotional closeness. This fear and avoidance can create a barrier that prevents them from fully engaging in relationships, leading to the stereotypical bad boy inability to commit. Next, we have low self-esteem. Despite the bravado and outward confidence, many bad boys harbor deep-seated feelings of self-doubt and inadequacy. The rebellion, the charm, the risk-taking, these behaviors can serve as an armor, a defense mechanism to mask the insecurities they feel within. It's a classic case of fake it till you make it, only they never quite make it because the root cause of their low self-esteem remains unaddressed. Impulsivity is another significant psychological factor. Bad boys are often seen as impulsive, acting on the spur of the moment without considering the consequences. This impulsive behavior can be due to poor impulse control or a disregard for potential consequences. It can lead to risky behaviors and poor decision making, further reinforcing the bad boy image. Lastly, the need for validation. Many bad boys seek external validation and approval to bolster their self-esteem and self-worth. They often rely on others' reactions and opinions of them to feel good about themselves. This reliance on external validation can drive their behavior and interactions with others, making them susceptible to peer pressure and societal expectations. These psychological factors, attachment issues, low self-esteem, impulsivity, and the need for validation, intertwine and interact in complex ways to shape a bad boy's attitudes and behaviors. They paint a picture of a person who is more than just a rebel without a cause. They reveal an individual navigating through life with a unique set of psychological challenges. These psychological factors impact their behavior, but how do they manifest? Let's examine their behavioral patterns. Behavioral patterns provide insight into a bad boy's interactions with others. One of the prominent patterns is the cycle of push and pull. This dynamic can be likened to a dance, a back and forth rhythm that creates a whirl of emotional unpredictability. Picture a bad boy drawing someone close, showing a hint of vulnerability or interest, and just when that person starts to feel a sense of security, a whiff of closeness, the bad boy pushes them away. It's a cycle that keeps people on their toes, never quite knowing where they stand. This instability can lead to a roller coaster of emotions for those on the receiving end, fostering an addictive, sometimes toxic bond. Then there are manipulative tactics. Now, it's important to stress that not every bad boy resorts to manipulation, but some do use it as a tool to maintain control and power. The charm and charisma we talked about earlier, in the wrong hands, they can be used to twist situations to make others feel guilty or even doubt their own perceptions. This behavior is often driven by a deep-seated fear of vulnerability. By controlling others, they can keep their own insecurities at bay. And lastly, let's talk about conflict proneness. Bad boys, with their rebellious nature and disregard for societal norms, can often find themselves in the midst of drama and conflicts. Their desire for autonomy can clash with the expectations and boundaries set by others, leading to disagreements and discord. This conflict-prone behavior can strain their relationships, creating a cycle where they constantly have to find new connections as old ones falter. In essence, these behavioral patterns, the push and pull, the manipulation, the love for conflict, they all play a part in shaping a bad boy's interactions with the world around them. They dictate how they behave in relationships, how they respond to challenges, and how they navigate their emotional landscape. These patterns dictate their interactions, but how do they cope? Let's explore their coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms are ways bad boys handle their emotions and stress. They are essential survival tools, but when misused or overused, they can become detrimental to one's mental health and relationships. Let's delve into two common coping mechanisms bad boys employ: escapism and avoidance of vulnerability. Escapism is a coping strategy that involves seeking distraction or relief from unpleasant realities, often in the form of risky or thrill-seeking behaviors. It's like taking a detour around a roadblock instead of confronting it head on. It's a temporary escape route, a means to sidestep pain or discomfort. For the bad boy, this could mean going on adrenaline-fueled adventures, engaging in reckless behaviors, or immersing themselves in a world of fantasy. While escapism may offer temporary relief, it rarely addresses the root cause of their emotional distress. It's like putting a band-aid on a deep wound. It may cover it up for a while, but it doesn't heal it. On the other hand, avoidance of vulnerability stems from a fear of emotional exposure, rejection, or perceived threats. Bad boys often keep their emotions under lock and key to maintain a sense of control. They build walls around their hearts, creating a fortress that keeps others at arm's length. This coping mechanism can hinder their ability to form deep and meaningful connections with others, as it prevents them from fully opening up. It's like standing at the edge of an emotional cliff, resisting the call to jump into the depths of intimacy and vulnerability. Both escapism and avoidance of vulnerability, while serving as coping mechanisms, can have long-term implications on the bad boy's mental health and relationships. They may provide temporary relief, but they also prevent them from fully addressing their emotional struggles and forming meaningful bonds. These mechanisms help them cope, but they also contribute to their complex nature. As we continue to unravel the psychology of a bad boy, it's essential to understand that these coping mechanisms are not just behaviors, but reflections of deeper emotional realities. To cope, they might resort to escapism and avoidance of vulnerability. These traits and behaviors, while not exclusive to the bad boy archetype, appear to be prevalent amongst them. Truly understanding the bad boy requires acknowledging the complex interplay of these characteristics and their underlying motivations. Understanding these aspects can provide a deeper insight into what makes a bad boy tick. Thanks for joining me on this exploration, and remember, everyone has a story. Until next time, this is Leon Maz signing off.